What's up, everybody? This is Sinta, and I have my beloved husband, Jamie, joining me today for my community stories segment. And then I have a few other people here. Today, we're going to be talking to a good friend who just joined us on the dark side, aka stateside. So we're going to let me welcome all of my guests right here, right now. What's up, everybody? Say hi. Curtis, how's it going?
Doing very well. Staying healthy and happy and quarantined.
So. Our purposes.
I'm good. I'm from Philly.
Hey.
Okay, he's
What's up, good? How you doing, good?
What's up, good?
Right.
I'm Ra or Robert. I'm Sinta's son, and I'm a college student from Delaware.
Where's your school?
I go to Bucknell University.
All right.
Hi, my name is Putra Cigar, and I'm an alcoholic. My bad. This is the wrong meeting. Okay, my bad. Yes, I'm in Jakarta, living happy and healthy, and under the quarantine. So, hi everybody.
All right. So it's me, Saykoji, student of the culture. Right now, here in Jakarta, in my house, is early in the morning. The kids are not up yet, so I got some time.
Yeah. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
All right. So we're going to ask questions to Curtis because I thought it would be super interesting to talk to you because the typical, for lack of a better term, expats who are in Indonesia or, like the foreigner who are in Indonesia typically are white people, right? So I just thought it would be interesting to ask you questions about your experience in Jakarta. Share with us what brought you to Jakarta.
Yeah, no, so about 6 years ago, I came to Jakarta to work in this program called, from the embassy side, called Ad America. And for those who don't know, Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's cultural center in Jakarta, and it's a one-of-a-kind space globally. So embassies have cultural centers all over the world, but this one's in a mall, a high-end mall. This one's, it does 60 events every month, which is like 3 a day. The events could range anywhere from a hip hop concert to a movie screening to a talk show to anything. And so, our former president, Barack Obama, who I used to work for back in the day, also lived in Indonesia. And when you looked at Indonesia and it's as a gateway to Southeast Asia, one of the things that attracted me about the space was America's greatest export personally is our pop culture. And our pop culture has the opportunity to bridge generations, bridge cultures, but also educate. And America's pop culture, I would argue, and I'd probably be right, is steeped in African-American culture. As African-Americans go, so goes American culture, and then so goes the culture of the world. And so this space that was culture was very intriguing to me, and how many different creative ways we could try to incorporate some of the cool things that were happening in Indonesia and some of the cool things that were happening in the United States. And so 6 years ago, recently came back 2.5 years ago, on the private side to do this, to become the senior manager of the space. And so it was important for me as an African-American just walking around, as you said, Sinta, for people to see me, to see that I was an American and that I was a diplomat, even though I didn't work for the government. I was a diplomat just in my everyday. And that's a fun opportunity to have because I like people. And on occasion, they like me too. So it's all good.
On occasion.
How many hours did you try to memorize that answer? Did the feds try to, did the feds write that for you?
This is all straight from the heart. Putra, you know me, baby. Straight from the heart.
So wait, were you picked for this job because you're African American?
No. No,
Who's
no, no.
disqualified?
Whoever wants to ask questions, you can just kind of throw it right now.
No. I applied for the gig, and the guy who runs the contract and we kept a really good relationship, and I happened to be back in the region, and being back in the region, I had the opportunity to come back in that management role. He knew me, I knew his staff. The person I replaced was a white woman, and so to have he was, and he's a white man, and so he saw the value from an American standpoint of what the face looked like, right, of leading this team. And so so I don't know if it played a role, but it definitely wasn't a detriment. It was a benefit. He saw it as a benefit, and I definitely think the folks who would come in saw it as a benefit and a surprise more than anything else. So
I got a question.
Great.
okay. Yeah.
Go.
Okay, Curtis, I want you to say a line. The most Jakarta line in Indonesian that you have learned.
Oh goodness,
So prove us that you've stayed here.
Yeah.
Prove it.
You can just be saying it. Man. You can just
Not
be
in
saying
English,
that you were here
in
for
Indonesian. And to be more,
mantap.
exact.
That work?
That work. That kind of work.
Okay.
Mantap. That kind of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, sip, siap, or
siap.
Yeah. I mean, so that was also the fun thing. And so I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. I was just like, as far as my time there, I was like, man, I went full native. Like I went all in Indonesian. I was like, wow. I was really into it. But it's just it's Indonesia's like an onion, right? Like especially Jakarta, it's like an onion, and you just peel back layers and layers and layers, and every time it just gets deeper and deeper. And there's so many just different aspects of it that are just phenomenally interesting. If you like people and you like just watching folks and just how folks operate, it's an interesting space, man. It's just it's a cool experience, and it's the first place I lived internationally, and it's kind of it will always be near and dear to my heart. Like I said, I'm in Florida rocking. I evacuated and I made sure I brought my Jakarta shirts. Yeah, my staff.
I believe you. So because actually earlier this year we met in M Block.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the newest, high locations where people would like to just go and visit. And I saw this tall guy just walking around, and I was because I was like I was like short, because if I didn't call him out, he wouldn't see me at all. Like,
so that is the problem. That is one of the problems as far as being, what was it, 6'2", 6'3", I guess it's in Indonesia and African American, like you can't hide anywhere. So everybody
stand out.
Right. Like you just
stand out, yeah.
They're like, no, I saw Curtis. It's like, oh, okay.
So there's a million people around.
Right. Everybody saw it. And that's the funny thing about it. People are like, well, do you feel safe? Do you feel this and this and that? I said, if there's somebody that wants to do me harm, they are so shocked by that I'm there. By the time I leave, that's when they figured out they wanted to do something. They're like, where'd he go? They're like, he's gone.
Wait, but okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, to Saykoji and Putra, right? This is maybe for Ra's education. I mean, this is what I know, what I learned, right? Maybe also for you, that if you're Black or if you're African American in Indonesia, you're either like an athlete, right? Sports athlete, NBA, or soccer, or you're a drug dealer. Is that true or not? Is that true or not?
Yeah, there's Nigerian.
Right.
So
I was here for U.S. I mean,
well, so when we talk about the similarities of the two places, there are a lot as far as just, the view. But one of the things we talked about, especially at America, is we did this Black History project on African Americans in the media and on television. And so in the 1980s, somewhere in the neighborhoods of 85% of all African Americans on sitcoms or like drama TV shows had a high school education or less. So what that meant was everything that was being perpetuated on television was that we were high school educated or less, which means what are those jobs? Like your maintenance, you're in service,
right,
or you're a criminal, if you're on these shows, right? And so you think about that, you're like, wow, that really sucks in the United States. Then you forget about syndication, and syndication takes those things globally. And so what happens is you have this cognitive dissonance and just, this unconscious bias of people that you've never met and that you don't know. 5 or 6 times in Pacific Place, which is a mall at America's End, a day, somebody would grab their purse subconsciously, right? And this is something that we talked about. And I would tell my coworkers that who are all in the need, like, no. I was like, follow me for a day. And they would see some of the things that happen, or, and just whatever the circumstances are. And the thing that I think makes a difference is when it comes to overt racism. Racism is when somebody knows better and they choose not to do better.
right.
Now, if somebody doesn't know any better, it's a learnable moment. That's an opportunity to say, look, this does not work. This does not have an opportunity. Saykoji, I believe, knows, but one of the things I used to do was anybody that came in and did hip hop or anything or R&B as far as in that America, like I would lecture them in advance. I was like, look, I appreciate your love for the music, but you're not going to train on 400 years of oppression without knowing the background and the history so that you can tell everybody else about what's happening and how it impacts, how using certain language is not appropriate, how, certain mindsets are not appropriate, things like that. So.
Yeah, you kind of touched on a few things. I mean, things that from my time in being in Indonesia that I probably noticed, or things that I was aware of but probably didn't pay too much attention to. Like the first thing, so if you're an African American male such as myself who stands 6'2" and over 200 pounds,
yeah.
But the one thing that I noticed that when I was there was that I didn't feel any like hostility or animosity or anyone feeling as though they were threatened, maybe because of the fact that I was probably there during the day and with Sinta or with Igor or family. But the one thing that I did notice was the first thing was that I stood out. I stood out in the sense that I'm 6'2", so I'm probably like a foot taller than everybody else.
Right.
And the shock and the awe of seeing me in the sense that people look. I remember when I used to be with Saykoji, people would look at me as though like, is he like a bodyguard? It was like, who's that? Like they would look in the sense that like, who's that? Like who's part of that entourage now? So that was one aspect. But I wondered in terms of, just you being yourself and being alone, how your experience in going through every day, was being in Jakarta, like especially speaking the language, eating the food, because you said you went full native. So I'm assuming you took on the language, you took on the food, you took on, a lot of, the symmetry of the place of assimilating, so to speak.
Yeah.
What that process was like.
Yeah. So you know what? It was part of it was, I'm not going to say it was all roses. It was difficult. It was lonely. Because one, the people I knew in Jakarta the second time around, I was here twice working in the same space. And the people I knew the second time were only people I worked with. And before we were colleagues and I came back as their boss. So when I was trying to go out and hang out with people, I didn't want to hang out with them because I didn't want them to feel forced, and so I had to go try to figure out and find my own community there. And that's one thing about Indonesia, it's very communal. And to your point about people trying to figure things out, another phrase, kepo, it's something.
Very nice.
So
It's like
everybody,
Uh-oh.
Verified, Jakarta, verified. Yes. If I can give you a blue tick right now, I'll give it to you.
And then take it away because we're Jakarta.
that's the thing. It's just one of these things where folks need to figure it out. And the way they figure it out is ask very personal questions. And you're like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. And so again, it comes from a place of trying to get them, you know, there's a sense of 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 with me being there. Like Sinta said to start off, like what, like you don't make sense here. And it's not a bad thing or whatever. It's just, you know, you got to help people connect those dots. As far as, going all in, I think it was, it's very easy to get involved in the government space and in the government bubble. And I was not interested in that. You know, I was not interested. I didn't move all the way to the other side of the world to be around a bunch of Americans, right? Like I would have stayed in America. Like, so for me, it was important to, you know, just have a lot of real folks. And like Saykoji had walked in, you know, with At America, and we just started talking. And so what tends to happen at America is I meet an Indonesian who speaks great English, and we carry on a conversation, and then I leave, and some of my coworkers say, oh, do you know who that was? I was like, no, like there's just a cool cat I was talking to. Like, I don't know. And so they're like, oh, and then they show me everything. I'm like, yo, I'm like, that's cool. But so, you know, being able to have those conversations and being able to be in that space and just being able, like, again, I like people. And one of the things I always say about international travel, the one thing you never have to translate in any culture is a smile, right? Like, so no matter how, you know, menacing some people may look, you know, just based on what they've seen on TV, if I'm smiling, like everybody's like, oh, well, I got to figure out what's going on. My team did a video for, you know, my going away and everything like that. And they did testimonials, and you know, they did testimonials from staff of Pacific Place that I had talked to every day.
Oh, not just At America, but like
no, like mall staff. Like I could walk through that mall and everybody's like, are you the mayor here? Like, you know, everybody. Because everybody's trying to figure it out, right? Like everybody's like, why is he here? So I go up and I just have the conversation. I'm like, oh, I'm here doing this or whatever. Like my Starbucks folks, the folks who, you know, worked in the banks next door, like all, yeah. And again, like if you're there to, you know, reach out and meet people, like you have no idea the impact you'll have on others and what that means for the greater, you know, population.
So you just mentioned something like 2 seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
You said sometimes people ask you inappropriate things or do inappropriate things. What's the most inappropriate thing that you can say, you know, that enough to say that may have happened to you? And what's the thing that actually happened to you that caught you by surprise that actually made your day?
The worst is, so at least once a week in the taxi, because everybody thought, or because again, oh God, Kalimantan and
Islands?
Yeah, well, some of the islands, oh my God. But everybody can sing, from their darker skin and everybody can. Ambonese.
yeah. So, you look like you're Ambonese, right? You could be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, you must have a good singing voice. You sing for me. I was like,
that is very true.
That's an Indonesian stereotype, right?
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
It's also a black stereotype.
It's also a black stereotype. Like,
Yeah.
you're black.
You got your dark colored skin. You must be able to sing.
Well, wait. But see, even with that, right? Like, so even with that, right? So Ambon has a dance called Pocho Pocho, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
That's the electric slide. And I will fight anybody that tries to tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo!
Or the American would say the hold down, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
But yeah, that's how we do, yo.
I was like, yo, so I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's so crazy that, again, on the complete opposite side of the world, there's so many commonalities and things. And so, you know, the more things change, the more things stay the same. But again, as far as the open-mindedness of just like, you know, having those conversations. But yeah, I'd say that's the worst thing. Like, I mean, and it would happen once a week, or, you know, in a taxi, you know.
Maybe it's time for you to catch up, like actually learn how to sing.
I will not.
Yeah, man.
You went there.
So back in the day, I used to play piano. I used to play saxophone, a lot of instruments, and
But you stop.
I definitely
There you
did.
go.
I definitely did. And the thing was, I appreciate music so much that I will never sing.
Good point, though. It's a good point.
Good point.
Did anyone ask you in Indonesia if you were a rapper?
Oh yeah, all the time.
After he hangs out with Saykoji, for sure.
Yeah, all the time.
So what's the one native food that you miss the most from Jakarta?
Rendang. I really liked rendang. Like, I mean, that was my lick. Like that was my comfort. That was just my comfort food. Like, I can.
What's the one food that you smell it or you look at it and you're like, oh, like
Durian.
oh,
Durian.
There you go.
Wait, I'm gonna tell you a story about durian. We were at a convention center in Philly, and a friend of hers bought this cake for her that was with durian, but she sat it behind me and she didn't tell me that it was there. So all day I'm sitting there, I was like, do you smell that? What's that trash smell? They say, oh no, it's nothing.
Shout out to Ian if you're watching this.
Finally, later on that day, we ate the cake, and it was awful. But I knew what it tastes like, so I had that experience. Okay, fast forward a year later, I go to Bali. We're at this waterfall place, and we're probably a mile. We're in the parking lot, and we're a mile from where the attraction is. I could smell the durian already. When we got close up to it, I was like, this is awful. Like, this smell, it smells like a sanitation truck.
I don't like fruit to begin with. And so not liking fruit to begin with and then having durian, like, I'm just out. Like, I'm out.
Yeah, that fruit, it looks intimidating, it smells intimidating, it tastes intimidating as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it takes a special, like, I'm good. I'm good. Now, that's another thing about food that I do not understand when it comes to the Indomie, like, as far as how hot it needs to be to where you may go into cardiac arrest. Like, I'm like, how are you enjoying it? Like, oh no, Pa, it's good. It's good. I'm like, it doesn't look like it's good. It looks like I'm gonna have to take you to the hospital.
Wait, my sister has a question, right? So if she and her husband is also African American, if she's to move to Jakarta, what will be the 5 top things that you would recommend for her husband to prepare for? Like, for example, where is he going to watch his football?
Oh.
At America.
Yeah. So if it's a Super Bowl, he can watch it at America for free.
Yeah.
You know. So we show the Super Bowl at America. Other than that, I would say on his laptop.
Besides football,
so be prepared to be inside, like be in malls. A lot of air conditioning.
Oh my God,
you know,
that's true.
Yeah, like you're not walking anywhere, so you're gonna be in a mall. Yeah, I would say, you know, be prepared to be inside. Be prepared for traffic. The other thing about the traffic is, like, I mean, I use that as opportunities to either get work done or sleep. So I got no real problem with it, you know, unless I got to be somewhere. And if I have to be somewhere, then I know, you already know how long it's going to take, and you know how you got to deal with it. The other aspect of it is, and I think what the key was for me was just having a legit open mind and just being open to everything. You know, an expat told me once, like, a lot of people will come into a different country and they'll say, why do people here do this? Why? It's better to just ask, why not? You know, just because you did it a certain way doesn't mean that's the right way, you know? And conversely, you know, you just never know. You might learn something new. Prepare for everything to be much cheaper than it is in the United States. I swear here, if I cough, I owe somebody $20. So, you know, like, so I'm just like, man, mahal. So it's like,
I like it, like the way you said
Wow,
it.
there you go.
It's expensive.
I don't really have a question. I'm just curious about like like I've never experienced Indonesia as like an older, like fully formed mind person. So
my mind is not fully formed either. So don't
I
worry.
was just gonna say, me too, man.
like
No worries about that.
last time I was in Indonesia, I used to think that Indonesia was like the perfect place and that there was no crime in Indonesia and all that stuff. Like
You're so
I used to
funny.
think that Indonesia was the
You're
best place
so
ever.
funny.
And I grew up and I realized it was part of the real world. Like I just want to know like what your
Yeah.
perspective as a black man in Indonesia was like how was it different? And how did people like how did people I don't know. I really just don't
Okay.
you know.
The biggest thing is no matter as far as again with the crime and other things that could happen here, I know I'm not going to get shot. I know that, you know, again, due to my size, like people are really going to think hard if they want that smoke. And I can guarantee you they don't. Like,
Yeah.
so, I mean, so a lot of the stressors are kind of lifted. And, you know, even like walking around here in Florida on occasion, I'm just, you know, the things that are going through my head as far as stressors that are not necessarily there based on what happens in the United States. I never feel that in Indonesia.
Like let's say like you encountered the police, like you wouldn't get the same type of like thoughts in your head in Indonesia as you would in
As long as you have a fat pocket, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, yeah. So this is a great point. Like, so this is one of these things where, so give an example, like if I went to a club, or if I went to a bar or something like that, and it was crowded, and it was like, you know, a bunch of expats or whatever the circumstances are, security's all around. And of course, because still, even with other expats, there's a good chance I'm one of the larger ones. I would go talk to the security guards immediately and just, you know, build up rapport with them. And most of the time I would stand next to them before they stand next to me. So I was kind of doing preemptive strikes on different conversations. And then when stuff would break out, they were definitely just on my side, and not even with the big pockets, right? Like, but just because I built up a relationship with them, right? But again, if necessary, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. I remember one time I was coming to the country and I hit secondary, or no, I hit the customs agent, and he wanted to take me back to secondary for additional questioning. And what he did, because I was there on a work visa on my personal passport, he didn't know I had a diplomatic passport as well. And so I said, like, or also where I worked. And so I said, like, look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be inconvenienced for 2 hours. Your boss's boss is probably going to get a phone call, and you're going to have to explain to your wife why you got fired. I personally don't want you to get fired, and I personally just want to go home. So here's your choice. You can let me go home, or you have a very long conversation tonight. And then
so you did your Denzel Washington speech, huh? You want to go home? Let me go home.
Putra, every speech I do is a Denzel Washington speech.
Curtis, have you traveled, you know, outside of Jakarta?
I've been to Bandung a bunch, just for different things. Bali, Gili, of course. Where else have I been? Puncak. Yeah, I mean, for like retreats and stuff. I wanted to get to Manado. I wanted to see Sulawesi and some other places, but didn't get an opportunity. Like,
of all the places that you visited, I mean, outside of Jakarta, which one would you say that you might want to live there? Like, it feels comfortable there. Like, yeah, I can see myself, you know, living here for a while.
Said Bali.
So, but that's the thing about Bali, right? Like, there's just so many expats. I'm just like, I didn't come. Yeah, I'm just like, you know,
because you were hanging out in the expat spots, man. You gotta go to the local.
Nobody took me to the local spots, right? Like, so.
Well, I'll take you to Bali. Shit.
As soon as this is over, inshallah, we go. Okay.
Oh, he's very Jakarta. That's how Jakarta people, when they cannot commit to one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, can we meet at this time? You say, inshallah. Why you gotta bring God into this?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm asking you personally. If you're late,
that-
don't blame someone else.
That was so there was a meme on Wow Shack, which is like my favorite Indo meme shop. And it said, I can't remember, it said like I said we were gonna open up at this time. And then the cat says, I said inshallah. Oh, I loved it.
Inshallah means God's willing.
Yeah.
Right, it really means maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
God
yeah,
wills
we'll
it.
Yeah.
God wills it, then okay. I'm like, hey man.
There was this one time where we actually had to go meet Obama. I actually didn't pack appropriately, and I didn't have the right clothes to get into the event. So my question to you is, as a tall, Black, African-American male, was it difficult to find clothes? Because it was for me. I mean, we looked everywhere. I think they only had like one. We went to a mall and I picked up a shoe and I wear 13.
Yeah.
Woman looked at me.
God damn.
Like,
so I'm gonna sound real bougie real quick. Like so
Say it, Mr. Hipster. Say it.
Well, so the thing is, like, so if it was work clothes, I'd go get it tailored. So I'd actually get it made. So I go to Majestic and I just go get it made.
He knows places. Yeah. He's just said,
Oh, yeah. If he knows Majestic.
You're Jakarta.
Oh,
If you say Majestic.
Oh, sure.
He's never been there.
verified, another check. Boom.
Localized.
Yeah, no, Majestic was my spot, man. Like, I mean, so I had my guy, I had a tailor, and
he has a guy.
That's Indo. You gotta have a guy, right?
You gotta have a guy for everything. Yeah.
So, but the other pieces are like, I mean, when it comes to shoes, I actually, you know what? The last time I was here, I did get dress shoes made in Indo too.
Did you use Gojek when you were here?
Oh, boy, yeah. So I would Gojek grab, depending on the day and circumstances. When I would go into work, I would either I would get a car. When I was leaving work, I get a bike. And it's rarely an issue, really a problem. Bluebird was my lick. So, I mean, that was real easy and they knew where everything was. So,
One fact that a lot of people don't know, like me and Putra, we actually go way back with Gojek since the early days when they went online. Yeah, because we made one of
the first one to make, he made the first Gojek song.
Really?
Yeah.
Putra was the director, one of the guys who worked on.
So we were in charge.
Cool.
We were in charge of making a video clip for them, right? And they're like, all right, so who shall we make a song with? I'm like, I'm a big fan of Saykoji. I'm like, can we make a song with Saykoji, please? That's why he never used Grab.
I stay loyal. Loyalty.
Me too.
No, and bless you.
Right.
Yeah.
After seeing how hectic Jakarta is, how hectic Jakarta traffic is, can you really say that Asians can't drive? I go to the States and I'm like, I really think, Americans can't drive. Think about being in Jakarta. Yes, the thing about Jakarta is that we probably don't know the rules because honestly,
we don't care about the rules.
Yeah. True that.
That's actually a big part of driving. Though.
Yeah, exactly. But all I'm saying is that so when I drive in the States and I'm like, I get frustrated. I'm like, look at these people. I'm like, but that's coming from me. I don't know about you, but can you say that
Well,
because when you say can't drive, it means like, okay, fine.
The question
maybe we ignore the rules.
Can't drive properly or drive efficiently.
I can actually answer that question.
Oh, okay.
I can actually answer that.
Come on,
so the first time I went to Indonesia, I was horrified with what I saw. I was horrified. I was like, this is a This is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like, but wait, as I was leaving, I had an appreciation for what I saw because I swear, whatever is done in Indonesia can never be accomplished on any level in the United States. Ever.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm not saying that we're not good drivers and we're not intelligent drivers, but what traffic is in Indonesia is like a living organism. Together. I mean, everything works together. It works so well. It's seamless, and it's just there's some unspoken rules that happen. You honk your horn. It's sort of like, okay, I'm gonna let you go. You honk your horn. Okay, I see you coming. In the U.S., we honk the horn because we're annoyed at you. Completely different, and it works. And the fact that everybody can work together on large mass scales.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I'm like, this would never ever happen to you. It would be people would be out in their cars with crowbars and fighting each other. This would never happen. We lose one red light and we don't know what to act like. We get to the intersection. Okay, who's supposed to go first? Being from the U.S., I'm used to personal space where. Give me some room in between you so that way I don't have to be on top of you.
Yeah.
How was that for you at first? I mean, did you notice that? Did you experience that? That people not respecting your personal space?
He was super annoyed.
I was annoyed.
And I was like, relax. This is Indonesia. Just enjoy it. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I gotta go.
I had a woman like laying her head on my shoulder. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know you. Can you get off of me?
I would fly in Southeast Asia a lot, and one of the things that as far as lines, when you're supposed to line up for a queue and stuff like that, the one rule is like it's like the one rule about lines is there are no lines. And so,
yeah,
like I mean, I would be that jerk who would come through, and I'm like, I'm standing in the front at the beginning, and anybody wants to move me, move me. That's the biggest thing. There are, as for me, it was always just like the line doesn't exist, or the ibu-ibus at weddings. Oh,
can't tell them nothing.
I'm like, oh man, can I eat? They're like, oh my eye, anytime you hear my eye, you're like, oh, here we go. So. Yeah, boo. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. You and your six friends can come through.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God,
we are the worst. I gotta admit, we are the worst in queuing. Oh my God. Hi, I got one. Have you ever hooked up with an Indonesian girl?
Next question.
Next question.
But we'll take two more and just act like that didn't happen.
What is the best tasting American food that you have ever tasted here in Jakarta? And
this burrito spot called Poblanos. It was a Mexican burrito, which is not American, but it was kind of like the Indonesian version of Chipotle. Mm-hmm. And so every day I would get a burrito from there every day. And then they were closing. And then, one of the staff told me, they're like, yeah, this is our last weekend. I was devastated. I think when I came back to Ad America and I told them somebody played It's So Hard to Say Goodbye by like Boyz II Men, I was like, I had like a single cheer. My last, like somebody IG lived my last burrito, and I was like, and so like that was the thing more than anything else. As far as burgers, what was good? Lawless makes a good burger.
Lawless, yeah, I heard.
Yeah, they make a good burger.
Clearly, you haven't tried others.
Well, so let's see. Yeah, so give me some and let me know, and I'll tell you if I tried them. So. I tried
Le Burger.
Yeah. But they're expensive as hell. Like,
we're talking about taste wise, not the value to price.
Yeah,
we're talking about American burgers.
Which burger are you talking about, Putra? Was it?
Le Burger. Yang di SCBD.
It's at the Alila Hotel. Yeah, right around the corner.
If you eat a slice of pizza, no matter where you go, pizza tastes like pizza.
But you didn't like pizza in Indonesia.
No.
Because they put mustard in it.
That's not even pizza.
Why you gotta contradict yourself, man?
They completely. The pizza is not pizza in Indonesia. Indonesia.
Yeah, no.
I remember I went to
I don't
Domino's and
know what
they
that
put
is.
mustard as the sauce, and I was so upset. I did give the pizza to
Mm.
Eon.
But there is an American pizza in Jakarta. I'll hook you guys.
Well,
up
you
with
need
it.
to tell me and show me when next time I go.
So what would be some of the biggest misconceptions about American culture in Indonesia?
You know, so if you've seen something from the Kardashians, it wasn't from the Kardashians. It was from somebody black that they stole it from, right? Like, so, you know, and
Oh
so
my God.
I would find myself often being the angry old black man, like, well, you know where that came from? Like, actually, you know, in 1942, on the corner of Crenshaw, and like so.
I
I'm
think
like,
I had
and
a
that's
pizza moment too.
right, like you know, and that I would do this all the time. Like, so you know, my staff, they're like, oh, we should do something for Taylor Swift. I was like, you will not do anything for Taylor Swift while I work in this space. I was like, it goes back to my original point, right? Like, American culture that goes global has some roots in African American culture.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
one of the things we say about, you know, Black history is American history, and it's amazing that we have to fight to continue to keep that in the, you know, in people's minds. But if we as African Americans, I think, leverage our culture better globally, the economic impact would be tremendous, you know, and as opposed to just fighting in the United States, like, just go global. Shaggy's It Wasn't Me went something like 10 times platinum, and that song sucked. I hated it. I hated it.
You know, it's catchy.
But it really
Right.
was them though.
But the thing was, it's not that it did well in the United States, it did well globally. Right. And so, you know, when you talk about folks are like, well, you know, I'm going to raise my kid to play in the NBA. I'm like, why? When you can raise them to play in the EPL, or you can play La Liga, like, and make global money. Like, you know, Michael Jordan, LeBron James are just, and Kobe Bryant are just scratching the surface of the money that is made in soccer. Right. Like, I mean, like, it's just, again, as far as global entities. And so the more we teach our people about globalization, and Indonesians the same way going in the United States and trying to penetrate that market as well. You know, you guys have talked to me about those things.
This been awesome though. I think everybody enjoyed, and it's pretty educational, right? Like, I think we're kind of sharing this knowledge and stories with each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any comment, Curtis? Any questions to any of us?
Well, look, I love you guys tremendously. You all have been a tremendous support system in my Indonesian upbringing. Putra and I, we were just getting started, and
I know, man.
And so I'm so disappointed. But I was, you know, I'm an Instagram fan of all of you guys. But no, man, I mean, like, I really do appreciate you all reaching out to me and taking the time to talk. As you can tell, I love Indonesia. Ooh, one more thing. So my favorite Indonesian song, my most favorite, and sorry, Saykoji, I'm sorry, the number one song, Aku Wanita by Reza. Like, I love that song. And the funny thing is, because everybody's like, you know what that means, right? It means I am a woman. Yes, no, I understand what it means. But the song and the instrumentation is phenomenal. And so I loved it. And I actually heard her in concert. They were able to get her to do, and it's on my Instagram, they were able to get her to do a going away message, and she sang the song.
Oh, I saw.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, that would never happen with, like, Anita Baker in the United States or something like that. Like, they're just like, you know. So that's the best. You know, the fact that can happen in Indonesia, in spite of how huge that place is. Somebody knows somebody knows somebody.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely loved that and adored it. And I really, really do love the country, and I love the people. You guys have been great to me. So I just thank you all for thinking about me. And
all right, Saykoji and Putra, you want to have last words, and Ra, and then we can wrap this up.
One last word. Is your clock working, Igor?
No, it's not.
Why do you have it there?
I just like to keep it that way, just to mess with people. Curtis, thank you. I mean, I work with you several times, and I would say I would thank you from the bottom of my heart to always
Oh man.
have hip hop, as a part of discussion in so many events in
Yeah.
Pacific Place,
Yeah, man.
because I love the culture, I love hip hop, I love the history of it, and to
Yeah.
have those moments when we can actually educate those who came and those who watch the stream live, that there's more into it.
Mhm. Well,
Hopefully,
thank you, man.
one day in the future we can do more things like this.
You can
So
tell
you're gonna
I can
follow
tell.
your sister's footsteps again, like how you did with her rapping.
Like, good one.
Putra with the
That's
sting.
I got
Always.
you. I got you. I got you.
Putra with the sting always, man.
You gotta make sure your sister gets all the credit, man. She opened up the way. If y'all don't know, Saykoji's sister started rapping, and then that's why this boy starts rapping. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Stay healthy and stay in good spirit, guys. All right.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.